plan to buy. Before we get into it, the first thing to look at is that what some of the housing prices have done in some of the capital cities around the country. As I said earlier, every capital city is at a different time on its cycle, so it's important to see which city is the next one to go to, and not buying at the wrong time or buying at the highest prices, and then potentially you could be holding a property through a downturn or a correction, which I'll cover shortly. So let's have a quick look at Brisbane and Sydney. So what we can see here is that traditionally housing prices will at least double every 10 years. And as you can see, during some of these decades, in the 70s, 80s, and the 2000s, they more than doubled. In fact, they tripled and quadrupled in the 70s and 80s. So if we use that 10-year period as a guide for when our property should double, then we're on the right track when it comes to planning. Now, which market to get into? That's the next question, because not all the cities are on the same time of their cycle. So what we can do if we're smart investors is move from city to city, buying properties at the right time and not holding properties while values are dropping and then flattening out. We want to be buying our properties at the right time where they're going to grow. So let's have a quick look at how that works. The property clock is a great way to do this. So the property clock you put over any market. So within that market we'll have a peak, we'll have a falling market, we'll have its lowest point, and then we'll have a rising market. And this occurs within roughly a 10-year period. So during that, when a market hits the peak, that's when demand has been outweighed by supply. So now prices are going to correct themselves, and we'll have a correction in the market where the prices will fall. And then it will hit its lowest point where prices will remain flat while supply and demand come to an equilibrium again. So what we want to do is identify that best time to then buy our property in this cycle, which is 7 o'clock. That's what we call the start of a rising market. Now 6 o'clock would be your lowest point, so yeah, you get the lowest prices, but we don't know how long it's going to be at 6 o'clock. So we want to be finding the market where all those factors that I speak about in the factors that drive growth webinar, we want to be applying those factors to this market, and that'll identify where 7 o'clock is. If all those things are happening, we have what's called a perfect storm, and that's where we're going to achieve all our growth in that shorter period, as opposed to buying property up here at a high price, seeing the price fall, holding it through a flat spell, and then waiting for the growth. So potentially we've got 5 or 6 years of opportunity cost there while we're holding a property and it's costing us money to hold that property. To maximize ourselves as smart investors, we're buying property here, getting all that growth that's going to occur in that cycle in the shortest amount of time, and then that puts us in a position to then move on to get our next property. All makes sense, doesn't it?